Welcome to Soulfire Wisdom with Kate Olson. As an evolving spirit and change adventure navigator, it is Kate's mission to empower and guide you on your path and inspire your truest passions. She will encourage you to share your gifts, speak your truth, and ignite your inner wisdom and purpose. She hopes to do so with a little humor and grace, and her own soulfire passion. Kate talks with amazing guests who have embraced the pursuit and are fanning the flames of their own passion, purpose, and soulfire wisdom. Now here's your host, Kate.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Soulfire Wisdom and Tips, Tricks, and Triumphs Tuesday. If this is your first time listening, I'm a hypnotherapist, NLP practitioner, Reiki master, and a life coach. But I like to call myself a change adventure navigator because I love guiding people through obstacles and adversity to find their path, purpose, and peace. So for Tips, Tricks, and Triumphs Tuesday, I'm going to talk a little bit about productivity. And what I've discovered about being productive is you need to have a system. You need to have something to measure your progress by. And it doesn't have to be complicated. It can be something really simple, like a to-do list, which is what I've used forever. But recently I moved it from a paper list to a list on my phone, which saves a lot of paper and rewriting of lists. So I've actually gotten to like that. And I have also applied a secondary system to my productivity, and I call it the Power of 7. And what I do is I can have some pretty extensive to-do lists. So sometimes it's hard to decide on priorities, what you're going to do, and in what order. So my Power of 7 is each day I do one big thing, two medium-sized things, and 4 small things from my list. And small things can be anything from like making a phone call to, like canceling some subscription or setting up an appointment or sending an email. And big things are things that are going to take you a while to complete. So I only have one of those major things that I do per day. And then medium-sized things would be things that may be a little bit complicated. You can't just do in a few minutes, but they're not going to take you, an hour. So anyway, that is my tip on productivity. And since I started using a system, I have really gotten a lot more done. So it doesn't have to be the system I mentioned, but I think the key is having a system. So we have a great guest for today. My guest is Aimee Harris-Newon. And she's a double board certified integrative and interventional psychologist with a postgraduate specialization in functional health and wellness. And she's the founder of the Center for Integrative and Functional Health and Wellness. And that's actually in, I think, Bloomingdale, Illinois. And she believes in a holistic approach to achieving optimal health. She's a best-selling author, a speaker, and the host of a popular radio show called Mind Over Matters, which airs on Sunday mornings at 10 Central Time on WCPT, which is, I think, 8:20 AM. So I met Aimee, I think in 2016 at the Symposium for Personal Development at the Harvard Faculty Center. And she was actually one of the most impressive speakers there and talking about reversing diabetes. And she has tackled a lot of other health and wellness issues in the meantime. I saw her again in 2017 and 2018. And so I'm really happy to introduce her now.
Hey, thank you, Kate. I appreciate it. You were very gracious in your introduction. It's always so humbling to be in the presence of such a remarkable healer such as yourself. So thank you for having me on the show. Guests, thank you for being gracious enough to tune in. I appreciate it. I'm excited to be here.
Well, I'm excited to talk about this topic. To begin with, though, can you tell us a little more about yourself and what brought you to your current path?
Yeah, so I'm a clinical psychologist by training. My first board certification was in forensic psychology, so really the interface and the law. And then I went into private practice for many years. And what I found was that many of my clients, although they were making good progress, there was a ceiling on the progress that we can make because they were dealing with physical health problems. So, and then my partner of many years at the time was diagnosed with thyroid cancer and then ultimately Hashimoto's thyroiditis, which then turned into chronic fatigue syndrome. Very remarkable woman, an integrative pharmacist, and got to a point where she was no longer able to work. Her conditions became so pronounced that she was unable to work. And we spent years and countless amounts of money going from doctor to doctor, with the same old prescription. Well, here's your medication, or you need this surgery, or you need that procedure. And all the while she was getting sicker, not healthier. And that really was a big wake-up call for me. We both started studying integrative and functional health and wellness. And for those of you who aren't familiar with functional medicine, it really looks to understand the underlying root cause of the disease or the symptom or the illness, and really work to reverse that naturally through understanding the lifestyle or making lifestyle changes, whether it's in nutrition, whether it's in sleep interventions, whether it's in stress management or healthier relationships. So that led me to then open an integrative health center. We initially had a holistic psychiatrist join, and then it became apparent that we needed, more of a primary care physician. And we got a really great Dr. Eliza Burness on staff, and she's been with us for many years now, who's grown into getting certified in integrative medicine, functional medicine, those kind of things. So it's been a natural evolution. And along that way, my mom was dealing with some chronic health issues that, although we were able to reverse her diabetes in her 70s, she had been put on so many medications that she ultimately died of congestive heart failure from being grossly over-medicated. And so those two experiences were groundbreaking for me in terms of opening my eyes to the failures of our conventional healthcare system, and as well as, to the opportunities when we look outside of traditional healthcare, what can be done to actually reverse, most chronic degenerative diseases and illnesses. So that was really my introduction into integrative and functional health and wellness.
So this past year has been, like total chaos for most of us. How have you weathered the storm?
It's I've been fortunate to have a great support system here at the office. We remained open the whole time, taking certainly a lot of procedures. Our active client base, I think about 50% of them opted for telehealth, either video visits or phone visits or Zoom. But it really caused it to take a deep dive too in understanding the coronavirus better, and not just the impact physically, but certainly the impact, psychologically. And one of the things we found early on when I was, giving talks about understanding COVID-19 and the, interventions was that, stem cells have worked remarkably well for turning around patients, even on their deathbed. I think there was an article in the Journal of Virology that came out in April of 2020 that was talking about the remarkable healing benefits of stem cells through IV stem cell infusion, certainly through nebulizing treatments for, severe COVID, pneumonia, and other, lung conditions, as well as other simple remedies, healthy levels of zinc, healthy levels of vitamin D, vitamin B, taking elderberry, ozone therapy. So one of the things it forced me to do was to learn even more about what's this virus about, and how can we fight it naturally through antiviral supplements, good foods that fortify our immune system, healthy relationships, tending to our spirit even. So COVID-19 brought a lot of gifts for us, and it was, again, a wake-up call. And, we've added, since then, we've added a lot of great treatments to the practice here, such as stem cell treatments. We weren't offering that before. We've added ketamine. We weren't offering that before, but we saw more and more people getting more and more depressed, more and more anxious, and meds weren't helping them. So.
Okay, great. Well, I'm glad that it was positive in that way, at least.
Yeah.
So as a psychologist, your focus on the physical side of things is atypical.
Yeah.
So you kind of just explained a little bit about, in your introduction, about how you got started going in that direction. But can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. So I love learning, right? I do. I love learning, because I feel like if I'm not actively learning and growing, then I'm going to be limited in what I can offer our clients and patients. So I've since, have extensively studied functional medicine. I've learned about our interventions. Ketamine and the psychedelics have shown to have remarkable benefits for people with chronic conditions. I've learned a lot about nutrient therapy. Nutrient therapy is, understanding nutritional deficiencies, or, maybe heavy metal toxicities in our body, and the delicate balance of that and the impact on hormones. So we've been studying quite a bit of that at the practice over the years, myself included. It really is about, staying, in front of what's happening in traditional healthcare, because, as much as we have some remarkable interventions for acute situations like a heart attack or a stroke, our healthcare ranks 29th in the world among industrialized nations, and our life expectancy, it ranks number 50. So, we spend 3 times as much on healthcare, but we're getting sicker and sicker. So one of the things, for myself as well as the practice, is to always stay, a foot ahead what's happening in the broader healthcare community. Because if people are really wanting to reverse, chronic conditions, a stress-related condition, for example, they're not going to find it in a disease management model, which is what we currently have. We've got a sick model. We treat symptoms. We don't look to understand the root cause or even reverse the root cause. So, I'm always trying to stay, a foot ahead of that and stay cutting edge.
Yeah.
And it is very different. People are like, what? You're a psychologist, but you're talking about health? I don't get it. But it's
Yeah.
because our mind and our bodies are part of one big system, mind, body, and spirit. If we only treat one, but we neglect the other, it's only half the equation.
Yeah, it is all related. So, what is the connection between stress, hormones, and health issues? I had a guy comment when I posted about the show, and I had sent him an invite for the Facebook group, and he had a name that you could think was female or male. So he emailed me and he said, "I thought you knew I was a guy." And he said, I don't need hormone therapy or any of the other things that you're talking about. And I emailed him back and I said, well, you might not know this, but guys have hormones too.
That is true. We all have the same hormones. We have them in different, different degrees, different amounts. Guys have a lot more testosterone than us gals do, but we all have the same hormones. Just answer your question. Let me just say that there are different types of stress. There are generally three types of stress. There's physical stress, that's falls, accidents, traumas, maybe poor sleep, right? There's chemical stress. That's what we're eating, what we're drinking, what we're inhaling. So what we're putting in our body, that can include medications. It can include over-the-counter things. And then we've got mental and emotional stress, friends, family, finances, those kind of things. And stress, our stress response is a really good thing. Prehistorically, it alerted us to dangers. And so, but our bodies were only designed for short bursts of stress, getting away from the saber-toothed tiger or, fleeing from, maybe a rival tribe member who wanted to kill us. But stress, when it's ongoing, when it's chronic, is ultimately going to be debilitating. It's going to lead first, to imbalances in our hormones, symptoms, and then ultimately to illness and ultimately to disease. So, when we're in a chronic state of stress, which most of us are these days, it's just a matter of time unless we're, it's a matter of time till, that stress-related illness hits. And it could be depression, it could be anxiety, it could be low T, but it's just a matter of when, not if we're not taking, a time to care for our body. So it's interesting to note that 95% of all lifestyle diseases today, heart disease, diabetes, cancers, thyroid disorders, 95% of those have a stress-related component. And most doctors' visits, most doctors to the primary care, or most visits to primary care, upwards of 90% of them have an underlying mental and emotional stress component, which never gets identified and therefore goes untreated. So again, if you're only treating the physical, but not the mental emotional, we're being set up for illness, symptoms, illness, and disease down the road. And a lot of times, things won't even show up in our blood work until we've been sick for a long time or we've had hormone imbalances for a long time. Most blood work, the blood work, that most doctors run is really unreliable for a lot of different conditions. Again, things won't show up. Somebody can have a thyroid dysfunction, and that might not show up in their quote unquote thyroid test until they've been sick for many, many years. It's typically when somebody, is either hypothyroid or hyperthyroid that the doctor will do any kind of intervention. But most people fall within that 95% of the bell curve. They don't have healthy thyroids. But a conventional doctor typically is going to say, well, your TSH is normal. I don't know what to tell you. Well, you've got these symptoms. You're just going to have to live with it. Or one of my favorites, you should go see a psychiatrist because it's all in your head. It's one of my ultimate favorites. Or another one, we'll watch it. Well, doc, what are you watching? You're going to watch it get worse, So yeah, definitely most doctors' visits have an underlying stress component, and almost all diseases today have an underlying stress component. Only 3 to 5% of illness or disease is hereditary, and it's usually disease specific. The rest of it is lifestyle related.
Yes. So how do our hormones become imbalanced?
So Poor nutrition, for example, our foods affect our moods. If we're eating a lot of processed foods, that can lead us to obviously have high blood sugar, which creates, high levels of insulin. We can get to a place where we become insulin resistant. And in fact, it's estimated that 60% of Americans today are insulin resistant, even though it doesn't show up in our blood work. So definitely poor lifestyle, excess alcohol, poor sleep, ongoing stress at work or with friends. When we're in a constant state of stress, our cortisol, our stress hormones are working overtime, for example. That can lead to a lot of things: weight gain, poor sleep, anxiety, depression. So they primarily become imbalanced through poor lifestyle and stress that goes unchecked. Again, that's what we're eating, it's what we're drinking, it's not moving our body with healthy exercise, it's not finding good mental and emotional stress outlets, it's not feeding our soul. Generally, when those things are ongoing, it becomes imbalanced. It's a cumulative effect of physical as well as mental, emotional toxins just kind of getting stockpiled in our body. Yeah.
So somebody says, curious, have you helped people specifically with osteoporosis?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's one of the best interventions. And a lot of times that comes from nutrient deficiencies. Our body is really intelligent. It's going to try and compensate. And let me just say, I have to make the disclaimer, I'm a psychologist, not a physician, so I'm not going to give medical advice. But our body is really intelligent in its ability to try and compensate for deficiencies. And it's not so much a lack of calcium leads to osteoporosis. It can be a number of nutritional deficiencies. And what our body will do, it will pull those nutrients from inside of our bones in an effort to compensate and fortify. But then what happens is our bones get brittle and weak. One of the, most effective treatments for osteoporosis is actually, for men and women, is fortifying your testosterone. Testosterone is one of those great fat-burning hormones, but it's involved in so many other, body systems. And so what happens when we can optimize testosterone, especially with a treatment we do here at the practice called bioidentical hormone replacement therapy, that can lead to upwards of 8% natural grown growth year after year. So a lot of times you can reverse osteoporosis, and one of the most common causes, testosterone deficiency, as well as other nutritional deficiencies. And taking a calcium pill is never going to be enough. Weight training is great. You need strength, training, but you have to look at the underlying, components to that. It's going to be nutritional deficiencies and some hormone deficiencies. So there are great treatments for osteoporosis. Yeah. And again, a lot of our BioT clients, especially our women clients, are able to reverse that, year after year, anywhere from 3 to 8% natural bone growth.
Great. Yeah. So what are some common or some of the key hormone imbalances that people experience?
Yeah. So common ones, let me just say, if we simply separated, we've got fat storing hormones and fat burning hormones. And the key is to balance those. Some of our fat burning hormones, for example, are glucagon, insulin-like growth factor. Our thyroid is huge, testosterone huge. Then we've got our fat storing hormones. We've insulin, estrogen, cortisol. And when those are out of balance, our hormones have to be there. It's like an orchestra. If the brass section is out of balance, the woodwinds and the strings aren't going to sound good either. So it's about finding a healthy balance between those fat burning and those fat storing hormones. But some of the most common hormone imbalances are thyroid imbalance, right? And a lot of times we'll see that where people kind of get fat all over, although it doesn't have to equate to weight gain. So thyroid imbalance, certainly, so thyroid conditions, diabetes is another great example. Okay. Heart disease is another, example of something that is related to hormone imbalance. And there are key symptoms to look for too. And let me just say, for those, there's estrogen dominance. That's when, you'll see, men, for example, have kind of that pear-shaped body, or they'll get man boobs. That's one of the easy ways to see estrogen dominance in males. So we can have estrogen dominance, we can have thyroid imbalance, we can have obviously insulin imbalance. But those are some of the most common ones. Cortisol, oh my God. Anybody who's tired and wired, right? Cortisol imbalance for sure.
Okay. They've asked to post your website, which I just want to say that we will give the website, and it's posted on the radio website. So don't worry, before the end of the show, you'll have that info.
Thank you for asking. I appreciate it. And it's interesting. We actually get people like national as well as international clients. We've got people that will come from Canada regularly. They do, our peak wellness programs, our functional medicine programs. And, as long as people are willing to make some simple but strategic lifestyle changes, most of these things, can be reversed.
Yes. So what are some symptoms of thyroid imbalance?
Yeah. So, and this is becoming more common. In the last 20 years, thyroid conditions have increased almost 10 times. And almost always they'll go undiagnosed or misdiagnosed. And even when they are, accurately diagnosed, the treatment will be the wrong treatment, right? Hair thinning is very common. Brittle nails, if you've got ridges on your nails, that's for sure a sign. Usually dry skin around your elbows or around your heels, sleep disturbance, weight gain, anxiety, depression. Those are common thyroid, again, being tired all the time, not getting restful sleep. Those are common symptoms of thyroid. And you can have an overactive as well as an underactive thyroid. More people with thyroid imbalance are underactive. Anxiety, depression are common symptoms of thyroid imbalance. And a lot of times when we optimize the thyroid, and we have to optimize the thyroid in correlation to your cortisol and your testosterone too. But a lot of times, when we optimize the thyroid, a lot of other chronic health conditions start to diminish and reverse.
Right. So, what about cortisol? Well, you talked a little bit about cortisol before, and that's generally caused by stress. Can you elaborate on what the symptoms of that are a little bit more?
Yeah. You know what? A lot of times when people have fat around the midsection, that's a key indicator of cortisol. Sleep disturbance, whether it's difficulty falling asleep or staying asleep, or waking up early and you can't get back to sleep. A lot of times fatigue, not feeling rested, irritable, anxiety. I'll give an example. Many years ago, I would regularly work 12 to 15 hours a day. I love what I do. And I don't have kids, so my practice, is my baby. But I didn't know I was setting myself up for my own health crisis. And it led to something called adrenal fatigue. And our adrenals are little tiny glands that sit atop our kidneys that regulate our cortisol. And so my stress hormone was pumping out at all the wrong times, and I started having panic attacks while I was driving. And I'm like, Aimee, what's going on? It's, you manage your health well, you've got a relatively healthy lifestyle, there's no big stressors. But I started having panic attacks while I was driving because what was once really relaxing to me, my body's like, wait, you can't relax. You have to be in fight or flight. So anxiety, a lot of people don't realize anxiety is a common symptom of cortisol imbalance. Okay. And people can have healthy lifestyles and still have cortisol imbalance. I've got we have women and men too that will say, I don't understand why I'm not able to lose weight. I exercise 7 days a week. I'm like, well, you're probably exercising too much, and that's causing physical stress on your body, as well as mental and emotional stress, which is causing your cortisol to spike.
Yeah. Definitely. So what about testosterone deficiency? How does somebody,
I love
know
that
if that's a problem?
I love that question. Thyroid and testosterone are arguably the two most important hormones in our body. So common symptoms of testosterone deficiency: hot flashes for women, right? Sweating, a lot of night sweats or excessive sweating for men as well as for women. Sleep problems, whether it's difficulty falling asleep, sleeping through the night, waking up too early. Depressed mood, whether it's feeling down, sad, on the verge of tears, lack of drive or motivation. Irritability, anxiety, and again, anxiety could be inner panicky, it could be feeling nervous. Physical exhaustion, like decrease in muscle strength or endurance, decrease in work performance, fatigue, lack of energy. Sexual problems like lack of sex drive or difficulty with lubrication. Changes, in bladder, difficulty urinating, increased need to urinate, incontinence, vaginal symptoms, dryness, burning, joint and muscular system problems, joint pain, swelling, poor recovery after exercise, difficulties with memory, difficulties learning new things, difficulties finding words, increased intensity of headaches or migraines, cold hands and feet or just intolerance to cold, weight gain or difficulty losing weight, dry or wrinkled skin, difficulty, as I said, with memory, problems with concentration or reasoning. The list goes on and on. For men, problems with, ejaculation, either infrequent or absent ejaculation, those kind of things. And again, it's arguably one of the most important hormones for men and women. And most women don't know that, if you're a mom, after your first baby, boom, your hormones take a nosedive and a lot of times never ever recover, right? So women are especially prone to testosterone difficulty, and not all testosterone replacements, I'm just going to say this, are created equally. So when you see, those ads for guys, if you've got low T, come see us, blah, blah, blah. Beware of synthetic hormone replacement treatments, because your body might not tolerate them, and they don't have the same protective benefits as a bioidentical hormone replacement. And again, if you've got low testosterone, whether you're a man or a woman, one of the easiest things to do is get in to see your functional medicine doctor, look at your testosterone levels, because you can fortify that pretty quickly. And within a week or two, start to see a significant improvement in a lot of those symptoms that we talked about. You'll also, when we optimize our testosterone, it has cardioprotection benefits, so it lowers our risk of heart disease by 50%, 50. It helps regrown healthy bone, so it can reverse osteoporosis. It decreases our risk of dementia dramatically. It has breast cancer protection benefits. It has prostate prevention benefits. People who've experienced post-traumatic stress disorder often have very low levels of testosterone, and they can be in therapy for years and years dealing with that PTSD, when all the while it could be as simple as looking at what's going on in their hormones and rebalancing their hormones. So testosterone plays a huge role, and we naturally lose it. Men lose testosterone on average 10% year after year. And that's with a healthy lifestyle. Women will lose it 1 to 3% a year, and we don't have nearly as much as men do. And so again, once we get into our childbearing years, especially women who have had children or you're busy raising a family, testosterone is just not the same. Guys will, a lot of times, a husband will be like, since we started a family, my wife has no interest in sex anymore. I don't get it. It's so frustrating. It's like she doesn't have time. Well, guess what? Her testosterone may have bottomed out and hasn't recovered. And so it's not that, you're trying to be distant or not, wanting to be intimate. Hormonally, you just might not be, able to, perform either sex drive, or it's painful, or, there's just little or no interest.
Yeah, I had no idea that testosterone had so much impact for women.
Yeah, for sure. And
So,
most people don't, Kate. When we hear about testosterone, we think about men. And what's interesting, a lot of times, men will be grouchy. One of the easiest ways, to make men happy, is and healthy, is to fortify their testosterone. Healthy testosterone for men should be between 950 and 1,000. Women, it should be between 150 and 350, maybe a little bit more depending. But, men generally aren't aggressive because they have too much testosterone. When they do get aggressive, a lot of times it's because they have too little testosterone. So men will be a lot nicer when their, testosterone is optimized. Women too, because it affects our mood. It affects our ability to learn and make decisions.
So, what are the implications if somebody has continued hormone dysfunction?
Yeah, it's a big question. Implications, myriad. You're setting yourself up for a health breakdown, whether it's diabetes and complications of that, losing a limb, getting an amputation, getting neuropathy. Thyroid dysfunction just sets you up for all kinds of other autoimmune diseases, heart disease, cancers, strokes, you name it, and more people are having heart attacks and strokes at younger ages. More and more people are being diagnosed with diabetes. It's increased 3 times in the last 20 years. Heart disease has increased 5 times in the last 20 years. So when we continue with increased hormone dysfunction, it's just a matter of time between, now and when the health crisis hits, because it's going to hit. Our body is remarkable. Like I said, it will do its best to adapt, but it's going to break down. It's, let me just share with you, there's 4 stages of health and wellness. We've got, optimal health, right? Then our body will create symptoms as a way of alerting us, getting our attention that there's some sort of underlying dysfunction taking place. And then if those symptoms go untreated, our body, the 3rd stage, will try adaptation. It's going to adapt. It's going to try and compensate. And that's, for example, let's use osteoporosis. If you've got nutritional deficiencies and there's been signs and symptoms, but you don't, address that, your body will adapt by taking those, nutrients from your bones. So that's an example of adaptation. But ultimately, your body's going to go into a state of exhaustion or breakdown. And this is when the crisis hits. As I said, most people won't do anything to turn their health around until the crisis hits. And by that time, it might be too late. That heart attack might be, a fatal heart attack. That stroke, you might not recover from. That diabetes, you might get neuropathy that's irreversible, and it might cause you to, have a limb amputated. The majority of amputations in our country are due to diabetes complications. So if you don't regulate and rebalance those hormones, it is just a matter of time between, now and when your health crisis hits. And whatever happens to you affects everybody else in your life, directly or indirectly. It affects your family. It affects your friends. I was talking to a woman earlier today. She said, chronic joint pain. She came to see us for some stem cells and some functional rehabilitation. And she said, I worry. I was on a walk with my girlfriend. We were in the city, and the pain in my joints was so bad. I was looking at my Google map to see how much longer we had to walk. Or, if I didn't think I could make it, I was going to have to take a cab or an Uber. And I worried, that my friend was going to be upset with me. So here's a simple thing, a very sad but common example of a woman who's worried, can I keep walking? And is my friend going to get upset with me because I can't make it? So
yeah, and then that stress causes other problems.
It does. It affects other people. It affects your coworkers. If you can't keep up because you're tired and wired, or you've got low testosterone and you can't focus, you're anxious all the time, whatever, it's going to affect other people, either directly or indirectly.
Yes. So, what are some ways of getting or keeping hormones in balance?
I'm glad you asked. So lifestyle changes are the best ways to do that. Um, Really, the first thing I would say is focus on what you're eating. If to keep it really simple, I'd say have what we call the perfect plate. A lot of vegetables, about 20 to 25, maybe 35% lean protein, maybe 15 to 20% healthy fats. So your healthy fats are your seeds, your nuts, your avocados, your fish, your olive oil, coconut oil, those kind of things. So perfect plates, a lot of vegetables, lean proteins, and some healthy fats. It's really, really helpful. I would recommend that people get tested for food sensitivities because we can be eating all the right healthy foods, but they might not be healthy for our body, and that can actually cause hormone imbalance. And there are certainly foods that are specifically related to, balancing our hormones. I'll give an example. So, Doc Burness here is working to optimize my thyroid functioning, and she said, Aimee, your numbers aren't still where we want. I'm going to recommend, I don't want to increase your dose of Armour Thyroid, but I want to add some selenium to your diet. So she said, I'll give you a choice. You can get a selenium supplement, or you can eat 3 Brazil nuts a day. Which would you prefer? So I opted for the nuts because
yes, definitely. Yeah.
So we can actually rebalance our hormones through food. It was Hippocrates that said, let medicine be your food and let food be your medicine. So get tested to see what food sensitivities you have, because again, all foods that are healthy might not be healthy for your body. Start moving your body, right? A body in motion tends to stay in motion. Exercise is, especially strength training, one of the best ways to rebalance all of our hormones, not just the endorphins, not just the feel-good hormones, all of our hormones. Regulate your sleep. Our body does a lot, most of its repair work and hormone balancing happens during sleep. So regulate your sleep. Try and get 7 to 8 hours a night. If you're not getting 7 to 8 hours, and if you're not waking up refreshed, you definitely have some hormone imbalance going on. But regulating your sleep, healthy exercise, and really focusing on healthy foods are huge. And then find really good stress management techniques. It could be meditation, could be mindfulness, it could be yoga, it could be time with your kids, it could be time in a spa or a salt bath, it could be, hypnosis. It could be journaling. Find ways to offset mental and emotional stress too. But those are the easiest, most predictable ways of reversing hormone imbalances, making the strategic, simple lifestyle changes. And if you find that you're still struggling, definitely see a functional medicine doctor that understands the intricate nature of hormone balance. Look for somebody look for a practitioner that's certified in functional medicine or integrative health and wellness for sure. And ask a lot of questions. If you go to your doctor and you say, Doc, can you test all 7 of my thyroid panels? And they say no, or why would you, why I don't see any need to do that. You should probably find another doctor. Yeah.
So, what is your biggest challenge in helping people through functional and holistic methods?
Our biggest challenge would be, I would say, most people come to see us when they're ready to make change, but we still get quite a few clients, mostly our mental health clients, people that are coming for depression or anxiety or PTSD. Some of the biggest challenges are helping them understand the role of hormones on their mental health. They're familiar with maybe their serotonin or their dopamine, their GABA, their norepinephrine, their big mood hormones. But most people don't realize that most of our mood hormones are made in our gut. They got to be converted from raw material into usable form, and they affect our mood. So the biggest challenge is educating people about the role of hormones, I think, on their mental health. A lot, we're still, bombarded with information every day, leading people to think there's one magic pill that's going to turn around your depression or your anxiety or your chronic migraines. And that's just not the truth. It's your body works as a system, and the system has to be in balance. That's probably been the biggest challenge.
So what is the biggest reward or gift that you get from the work that you do?
People thriving. Honest to goodness, people thriving. Our goal is to be a healing presence. I like to say that when you heal a person, you can heal a family. And when you heal a family, you can heal a community. And when we have people tell us that, oh my God, this was the first time in 8 years that I'm able to throw a football to my grandson, because before that, they couldn't even get out of the chair. We had a guy whose Parkinson's was so bad, so debilitating. He hadn't got out of his chair except for to go to the bathroom and, to go to bed at night. He came to see us. We did some functional medicine interventions. We cleaned up his gut. We did some transcranial magnetic stimulation for his Parkinson's. And really within about 6 to 8 weeks, he had traveled from Illinois to Minnesota to spend time with his family and grandkids. And he said, I can't even imagine, I couldn't imagine ever being able to do anything with my grandkids. I didn't see that there was a life for me outside of that chair. And so when we see clients, starting to regain full functionality, it's like a thrill every single time. A thrill every single time. When we see people that, have been diagnosed with chronic conditions, thyroid conditions, autoimmune conditions, turning them around and being able to get up and participate, go to their kids' soccer game or attend, their grandkids' piano recital or whatever. It just is a great joy. Or two people that are able to thrive in their marriage because, they both have enough energy to spend time with each other. They're not fighting all the time, or they're able to connect, intimately. That's a thrill. It's like Christmas all the time. So it's really exciting, to see people thrive. That's really rewarding for us.
Great. So what motivated you to do your radio show?
I figured I could reach a broader audience. I had never conceptualized doing a radio show or anything like that, but I had a client who came to see us for, thyroid imbalance. She came to see me for depression, anxiety. I referred her to Dr. Burness here at our practice, and Doc said, and I even told my client, I said, I don't think you've got depression, anxiety in the classic sense. I think what you're experiencing is probably some hormone imbalance. And she happened to be a producer at a local radio station. And we worked to reverse her health issues. She dropped like 60 pounds in 5 or 6 months through some lifestyle changes. We're able to, reverse her thyroid dysfunction. Her marriage improved. She had more energy. She's like, oh my God, Dr. Aimee, more people have to know about what you do. I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, you should do a radio show. I'm like, radio show? What? Radio show? She's like, no, you should try. I'm like, I don't know. I've never done anything. She's like, you know what? You just got to get in there. And so I took a big, deep breath and said, okay, what the hell? And it's just kind of evolved from there. And so it really is awesome to reach a broader audience. Because like I said, we've been able to treat people from all over the country, from Canada, from Mexico, with great results. A lot of people come see us, Mayo Clinic failures, they'll come here. People that have struggled, with University of Chicago or Rush University. So it's really a privilege and a pleasure. But yeah, getting into radio, it was really about reaching more people and turning more lives around.
Yeah. Well, I totally get that. So
I know you do, Kate. It's what you do.
Yeah. So this is sort of an off-topic question, but I've been asking all my guests for a while now. So I'll ask you, so what has surprised you most about life so far?
Ooh, how much there is to learn and how much I don't know. I think it's how much there is to learn, how much I don't know, but how much, the simple truths, are just so profound. Just the simple things we can do to nourish our body, and what a profound, and dramatic impact that can make. So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So we're getting close to the end of our time now. If you could leave the listeners with just one thought from today's show, what would that be?
Your health is priceless. Please invest in it. Okay. Be willing to take a different approach outside of the conventional medical model and work with a provider that understands the totality of you. But please, anything you do for your health and wellness, consider an investment, not an expense. And be willing to step outside of the conventional medical model.
Great.
Yeah.
Wonderful advice. So, so to get to the question that people were asking a while ago, how can listeners connect with you or find out more about what you do or all of the different options?
No, I appreciate it. And I would welcome email. So listeners can email me directly. That email address is health and wellness, all spelled out, health and wellness at the CIFHW.com. It's the shorthand for the Center for Integrative and Functional Health and Wellness. So you can send us an email there. You can check us out online at thecifhw.com. Certainly, we would welcome a call. That number is 630-980-1400. And, you can follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/the CIFHW. This Thursday at 6 p.m. Central, we're doing a Facebook Live. We're doing a wellness webinar, 5 Keys to Defeating Diabetes. And I'll also help you understand. I'll do more of a focus on helping you understand the other hormones that contribute to causing diabetes and reversing diabetes. So every Thursday at 6 p.m. Central, we do a Facebook Live wellness webinar. Yes,
and if you're interested in the reversing diabetes, I've heard Aimee talk about that before, and actually had her on Embrace Change with Kate talking about that. So it's a good discussion to catch. And I did post the website in the comments, and if you forget about it or the comments are gone, it's also on the radio website, and that's soulfireradio.com, and just scroll down to Aimee's name, and I think the website and the phone number are posted there. So thank you again, Aimee, for being here and talking about this topic. I definitely learned a few things. So,
Kate, it's always a pleasure. And we have to book you to be on my radio show because you're such a great healer.
So I'd love to. Good. My book that's coming out, it's called Living in Joyful Resilience. So maybe I could talk about resilience sometime.
I think that's fantastic. It's one of the things that keeps us going.
Yes, definitely. So I have a little quote here for the audience to carry with them through the week. And that is, medicine has until recently gone on the suggestion that illness should be treated and cured by itself. Yet voices are now heard which declare this view to be wrong and demand the treatment of the sick person and not the treatment of the sickness. The same demand is focused upon us in the treatment of psychic suffering. And that was said by C.G. Jung. So, and it was actually said quite a long time ago, but it's, very appropriate for today. So Thank you again for being here, and I'd like to thank the audience for listening. I have another great show planned for next week. Next week, my guest will be Dr. Lynn Morrill, and she has written a book called Beyond Lovelyville. And so tune in next Tuesday. That'll be the 22nd, 3 p.m. And she generally works in the area of stress and trauma. So we'll find out what Beyond Lovelyville is all about. So I'm just going to say bye for now.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a great week.
Thank you for listening to Soulfire Wisdom with Kate Olson. We hope you enjoyed the show. If we made you laugh, brightened your day, or sparked a new thought, we have succeeded in our mission. Join us next time when we'll share more secrets and truths and all the magic of transformation that is the journey to Soulfire Wisdom. Always remember, be fierce in the pursuit of what sets your soul on fire.
Kate, think about what Wednesdays you're going to be available. We record Wednesdays at 8:30 a.m. Central.